What does it mean to be a man in 2025? The short answer is whatever you want it to mean. Modern advice disempowers men. In this Unstoppable Man series, we have explored several limiting beliefs and narratives which exist in predominantly Western society about men, including that men are logical and not emotional or shouldn't be emotional, that men's value is built and that men don't have inherent value that they're born with, that men's main value is being a financial provider and a protector, and that life is a competition. Today, this is the final episode of that series, and we're going to be bringing together all of those topics to explore what does it mean to be a man in 2025, or what does the word masculinity mean if it's not attributed to those more traditional gender stereotypes? And how do we use that to build our confidence and create an unshakable confidence and become the most unstoppable, fearless, authentic version of ourselves? This topic and this series was inspired by several conversations with men, both clients that we have here at Catch, but also men who I personally know. And this video was inspired by a conversation with an ex-colleague of mine who is in his late 40s, early 50s, very successful in his own right, and him and his wife also own a business. And he was saying that what men are grappling with is what it means to be a man. What is men's role in society? What is the value that we bring? Because previously there was this set dynamic. Men went out and earned the money and were the providers in that way, and they had the physical strength, so they were the protectors of the family, and women would stay at home and look after the children and take on that nurturing role. At least that was the aspirational dynamic, particularly after World War I and World War II and through to the 50s, 60s, 70s, etc. Since the rise of feminism and women have broken out of that nurturing role and now have careers for themselves and are their own or their family's provider and protector, that has shown that women can do multiple of those traditional roles. And it's left men feeling, okay, well, where's my place then? And at the same time, they have people challenging them, or groups challenging men from the outside, saying, look, you should be more emotional, you should be kinder, you don't have to be stoic all the time, you should be able to look after the home just as well as women traditionally would be able to look after the home. And so women and the LGBTQ community had a slight benefit in a way, and this applies to people of colour also, that they decided to break out of the damaging narratives that were affecting them or oppressing them or holding them back or telling them that they only had a certain role in society. And what we're seeing now is that a lot of those calls to break out of those gender stereotypes for men may not be coming from other men. It's coming from broader society, it's coming from women in romantic relationships, it's coming from those groups who have already had to break out of the gender stereotype. So I'm not always sure that men are owning this transformation as much as other groups, and that might be why there's more resistance to it, or not everybody feels like they're part of that journey or clear on what it means to be a man now. And they're getting conflicting narratives. You've got some people who are still saying men should be the financial provider, and we see this a lot in America or other more traditional countries, and be the protector, and that's what they want the male role to be. And then you've got other groups who are saying, no, we want these different types of traits from men. You know, women saying, I can earn my own money. I want a man in a romantic relationship who protects me and provides me, not financially, but emotionally and spiritually. And I want a man who is emotionally regulated and looking after himself in all of those ways, because it's not healthy to not be in touch with your emotions. So what I've heard from men, and particularly in this conversation, was, I don't know who I'm supposed to be anymore. And that is very scary for some people, because although there was lots of issues with the previous framework, at least everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing. Whereas now those guardrails are being taken off, but it's scarier because there's 1,000 different ways that you can go. So how do we solve that? How do we help men and help everybody to find who they want to be in the world and what it means to be a man or to be a woman or just to be a person and a human that's living on this earth? Well, how we coach clients and why we've done this series is because we want to help people be who they are and be confident in who they are and their authentic expression, and not to be tied down by some of these gender stereotypes. Because what we've seen is that when people don't fit that mould, it makes them feel worse about themselves and it chips away at their confidence. And also some of those narratives belittle men because they're saying these things are natural to you and these things aren't. So it's not natural, some of the narratives are that it's not natural for men to be emotional, or it's natural for men to be competitive. So then if they reflect and think, oh, actually that's not natural for me, or I don't like that within myself, I want to be a better version of myself and develop those skills. Some people are telling them, no, you can't do that, you're biologically hardwired another way, it's not natural for you, etc. So the first thing is to take those guardrails off, which is what we've tried to help with in this Unstoppable Man series. And then it's about spending time reflecting as an individual. What do I want my life to look like? What sort of man do I want to be? And what is a healthy version of myself? So rather than caring about what women want from me in a dating scenario, or listening to online advice, what's healthy for me? Let's start there. So start by asking yourself those questions and spend time reflecting on these, journaling against them, and writing out your answer. What sort of person do I want to be? What do I want to be known for? And what do I want people to say about me when I'm not in the room? And what does my dream life look like? And then finally, what does the healthiest, best and most unstoppable version of me look like? Spend some time visualizing, as I say, journaling, writing the answers to those questions. You may have to come back to them several times, maybe speak to others in your life or a therapist or a coach to help unpick those answers. Think about what lights you up, what gives you energy. Do you like to be around others? Do you like to be challenged? What passions do you have? Who are the people you admire and what are their values and behaviours? What is it you admire about them? Use these questions to spark different thoughts and stimulate different ways of thinking so that you can answer the questions about yourself. And think about, what do you want being a man and being masculine to mean for yourself? What do you think healthy friendships, relationships look like? And when you look at other people who have the kinds of relationships that you want, what does that dynamic look like? So for example, when we speak to men, sometimes they depend on their dating and romantic relationships to have emotional connection. And they feel like they can open up more to the women in their lives. So if you were going to be a leader as a man and lead that change in your own life, how would you show up differently? What would your friendships look like, your family relationships look like? How would you show up at work if you wanted to create more emotional connection and vulnerability outside of just your romantic relationship? Would you open up to friends more? Would you go to therapy? Would you find a coach? Would you find any other avenues to express your emotions in a healthy way? You probably would. If you want to be the most healthy version of yourself, that would involve processing your emotions and being emotionally intelligent and being able to put yourself in other people's shoes, as well as looking after yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, etc. If you want to have better relationships that are more long-lasting, then work on those emotional intelligence and empathy skills and speak to those in your life who you know are good at it and ask them how they built those skills or what makes them good at that. So you can see we're starting to form a process where you define these terms for yourself. You're defining what it means to be a good person, not even a good man, but what kind of man do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? and what does masculine mean to you? And then you're looking for inspiration around you and within your own imagination and your own intuition and observation in the world, and starting to build those skills and behaviours by learning from others, learning from yourself, picturing that best version of you. And then through that practice and through that learning, you will move closer to that best version of you. And what's going to be critical is practicing along this journey. So you may not get these things right first time. In fact, you definitely won't. And they're going to take practice, because with a lot of these gender stereotypes, or even how we identify, so even if you're a man saying, oh, I already am emotionally intelligent, or I already have certain traits, sometimes our identity and our confidence can become attracted to those things. So when we decide to go down a different path or evolve further, it can be scary because our identity is tied up in it. So I spoke about this in one of the previous Unstoppable Man videos, where I talked about in my early career in a corporate jobs, I progressed quite quickly. And so a lot of my confidence was wrapped up in the kudos and the perceived power of having a high-powered corporate position, and through the job titles that came along with that. And so by going independent and setting up my own business, I realised that a lot of my confidence and identity was tied up in those job titles and had to detach. So it may be that you have to let go of some things or detach from some things and practice detaching to then reshape who you are and who you want to be in the future and what is healthier for you, and practice those behaviours and mindsets. So for example, if you want to become more vulnerable and share your emotions more, that may be scary at the start, or people in your life may not know how to react to that in a supportive way because they haven't seen that from you before. So don't be discouraged by early signs of perhaps not getting all the support that you would want or the reactions that you would want, and persist, because ultimately you're doing this for yourself, you're doing this for your own growth, you're doing this to become the most unstoppable and healthy version of you that gets the things that you want in life. The other thing that's key along this journey, so once you have defined where you want to get to and what that looks like, and the sorts of behaviours and mindsets that that person has, and you're starting to build those, practice it, show up in a different way. What's also key is to build your beliefs. So what tends to underpin how we each show up as individuals is not just what's natural to us and what has been told to us by society, but there's a set of beliefs that underpin that. So, for example, as a man, you may show up as stoic because you've got a belief that being stoic and not showing emotion is something that will help you progress in your career. It will maybe help you more when it comes to dating, and it makes you appear like a stronger man. Now, if you decide that it's healthy to show more emotion and be more vulnerable, and you want to start doing that, what also is going to make it feel scary or need more practice is that because those beliefs sit in your subconscious, you may feel like by expressing these emotions, even though you know it's healthy, you may feel like, oh, am I going to risk my reputation at work? Am I going to do as well in dating? Am I going to seem like less of a man, right? So along the journey, identify what things make you scared, make you nervous, feel uncomfortable, and try and identify the belief that underpins that behaviour or mindset, way of operating that is no longer serving you or you want to move away from. Because typically it's tied to a belief that is called a limiting belief and is holding you back. So you need to change that belief in order to make that full shift, or do enough practice and get enough evidence of the positive effects to then shift the belief. So if you know that expressing your emotions is healthy, but you're struggling to do so, then you need to change that belief to, actually, expressing my emotions at work will help me be a better leader. Expressing my emotions will help me to form deeper connections and attract the right kind of romantic partners, or develop the healthiest and deepest connections with friends and with family so that I'm happier internally. So along that process, you have to keep changing the subconscious beliefs and the limiting beliefs, as well as practicing what you want in the future in a persistent and a dogmatic way. and continuing to practice, you will see the results. You'll see yourself get closer to the person that you want to be, the type of man you want to be, how you want to show up in the world, and you will see the benefits of that and get the type of life that you want. So try that process, try defining what the type of human and person and man you want to be and what masculinity means to you. Start scoping out what those behaviours and mindsets and what that change would look like for you. Speak to others in your life to get inspiration for how they practically did that, or we've got loads of videos on this channel which can help. Start practicing that, even if you face resistance or trouble, keep persisting and practicing, and identify the limiting beliefs that could be getting in the way and continue to change those along the journey. And if you get stuck, we've got some digital products and some workbooks to do at home and some coaching available if you want any help. Now, 2 things along this process specifically for men that I want to call out. First is that there's a number of creators at the moment talking about new types of masculinity, so evolved masculinity, new age masculinity, compassionate masculinity, empathetic masculinity. I think they're all trying to help and redefine those words, but ultimately that's still somebody else telling you who you should be as a man and who you should be as a person and trying to repackage it. So if those narratives are useful for you and they help give you a framework, then great. But if they don't resonate, then our advice would be to define what it means to you, exactly how we've scoped out in this video, and don't feel like you need to listen to anyone else. Be the leader of your own life, because we're all individuals, so continuing to be attached to words like masculinity and femininity may not be helpful. And we did do another video on this a while ago about the problem with the terms masculine and feminine energy and the polarity theory for this same reason, so I'll link that down below. Okay, so unfortunately had a technical issue and I'm back, but it's now dark, so slightly different lighting. So the second caveat or warning that we would put when doing this belief work and defining for yourself what it means to be a man or the type of man that you want to be in 2025. And one of the pushbacks that we hear is, well, women want to date men like X, men who earn money, men who are tall, men who are strong, men who are stoic, so why would I want to change myself? Now, there are some women who look for those more traditional traits. That's completely fine. However, there has been recent research and there's a lot of discourse online about women wanting men who are emotionally available, women, earn for themselves and are taking more of that provider and that protector role and working themselves. So they're looking for more of a partner, someone who can challenge them, who they can have fun with, who they can open up to, and therefore it's a different kind of dynamic than what there was before. And again, what is healthy for an individual? Well, it's healthy for an individual to be their authentic selves. It's healthy for an individual to be emotionally in tune for all kinds of relationships, not just romantic. So why would you let certain women who say they want a certain type of person that maybe doesn't feel authentic to you, why would you let that control you? Rather than becoming the person that you want to be, that is healthy for you, that is the unstoppable version of you, and then finding people that align with that. And again, if you look at any kind of group that have been a minority, so women, LGBTQ+, or people of colour, they have had to break out of the stereotypes put on them and say, look, I don't care if I'm meek or polite or if, as a man I act too feminine, or as a woman I come across too masculine. I don't care, because that is me and I want to succeed in my work, or that's the kind of relationship that I want. I want to be assertive or proactive or flamboyant, whatever characteristic feels right for them. So men can now do the same, and I want to empower men to do that as much as it's authentic to them, rather than feeling like, well, I have to be a certain way because society told me to, or I now need to be a certain way because that's what women find attractive. So don't let society or the groups that you want to date control you. Do the things that you want to do that will help you achieve what you want in life, will help you feel confident, help you become that most authentic version of you that's going to make you happy and healthy. And if you follow that process that we've covered in this video and follow that direction in life to become that unstoppable version of you, then you will get the things that you want and you'll be a lot happier rather than letting these narratives control you any longer. So take your power back. You've got this. You get to define what your life looks like and what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine, and get the life that you want. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing. And we will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.